When I ask you to imagine life, perhaps your thoughts travel first to your own routines, your own joys and struggles, your own cycles of comfort and trial. But I invite you now to step into an existence so foreign, so stark, and yet so profound that it redefines the very meaning of survival and perseverance. Imagine life not within the warmth of a home, nor upon the fertile ground of temperate lands, but in the vast frozen reaches of Antarctica, where winds roar with punishing strength, where temperatures plunge to levels that defy comprehension, and where the sun itself vanishes for months on end. Imagine life as an emperor penguin, the tallest and most resilient of all penguin species, a creature sculpted by millennia of adaptation to endure where almost no other animal dares remain. This is a life that embodies extremes, a life measured in sacrifice, endurance, unity, and resilience. It is not a story of comfort, but of triumph in the face of desolation. A story that, though lived by a bird of black and white plumage, holds lessons in survival, community, and perseverance for all of us who seek to understand the deeper currents of existence. As an emperor penguin, your world is defined by cycles. There is no permanence except the certainty of change. Ice forms and recedes, darkness yields to light, hunger gives way to nourishment, and generations rise and fall in endless succession. Your body is crafted not for indulgence, but for function, your instincts tuned to rhythms older than memory. To speak of your life is to speak of survival at the boundary of possibility. Every breath you draw in the frigid air, every dive into the unforgiving ocean, every march across the windswept plains is part of a choreography of endurance that secures not only your life, but the life of your offspring and the continuity of your species. Your existence begins with the sea. For though your form may suggest a bird, the ocean is your true home. Beneath its surface, where light filters in shifting patterns and shadows conceal both nourishment and danger, you are transformed. On the ice, your stride is short and awkward, your body tilting forward in a waddling gait, your movements shaped by necessity rather than grace. But in the water, you are elegance itself. Your body cuts through waves with effortless power, propelled by flippers that resemble wings but are designed for flight beneath the surface rather than in the air. Here you dive deep into the blue-black depths, sometimes plunging more than 500 meters, holding your breath for over 20 minutes as you pursue fish, squid, and krill. Your muscles are rich in myoglobin, storing oxygen with efficiency, and your heart slows to a pace that conserves life during these extended descents. To live as you do is to conquer the very element that should overwhelm you, to make the hostile sea a place of refuge and sustenance. Yet no dive is without risk. The ocean is abundant, but it is also dangerous. In the dark waters lurk predators far larger and stronger than you, leopard seals waiting in stealth, killer whales patrolling with intelligence and power. Every journey into the sea is a test of awareness and caution. You must weigh the urgency of hunger against the peril of attack, for your survival depends on this balance. And yet, without these risks, there is no continuation of life, for the food you gather nourishes not only you, but eventually, the chick you may one day protect upon the frozen plains. The sea, however, is only one half of your existence. Each year, as seasons turn and instinct calls, you must leave the waters and undertake one of the most extraordinary journeys in the animal kingdom. You and thousands of others like you gather upon the ice and march inland, often across distances of more than 100 kilometers, toward breeding grounds that have served your kind for generations. These sites, chosen by tradition written into your very being, lie far from the shifting edges of the ice, on stable ground where your offspring may endure the months ahead. The march is relentless. Winds slash across the barren plain. Temperatures fall so low that unprotected life would freeze in minutes, and exhaustion presses upon your every step. Yet still you move forward, driven by the certainty that this journey is essential, that the survival of your species rests upon your persistence. Many falter along the way, but the colony presses on, sustained by instincts stronger than fear. When at last you arrive at the breeding grounds, another cycle begins. Here, amid the chorus of calls echoing across the ice, you seek a mate. There are no bright feathers or extravagant dances to win affection, but rather an intricate exchange of posture, sound, and patience. Each call is distinct, each voice a signature, and in the crowded colony of thousands, you and your partner will recognize one another with unwavering certainty. From this bond, one egg will be laid, a single, fragile promise of continuity. Unlike many birds that produce numerous offspring, you invest all your effort, all your energy into this one life. The responsibility is immense, and the act of nurturing it will demand sacrifice of the highest order. When the female lays the egg, her body depleted from the effort, she entrusts it to you, the male, in a delicate and perilous transfer. The egg must never touch the ice, for the cold would claim it in moments. Carefully, it is placed upon your feet, where it rests beneath a fold of skin known as the brood pouch, shielded from the killing air. With this act, you assume a role of remarkable endurance. The female departs for the sea to replenish herself, and you remain upon the ice, cradling the egg, fasting through the brutal Antarctic winter. For more than 4 months you will not eat, surviving only on reserves stored in your body, losing nearly half your weight as you guard the fragile life beneath you. The ordeal of this vigil is unparalleled. Darkness falls as the sun vanishes for months, and the winds intensify into shrieking gales that drive temperatures to their lowest extremes. To survive, you and your fellow males huddle together, pressing close in great clusters that shift and rotate so that no one bird bears the full brunt of exposure for too long. It is a living shield, a demonstration of collective survival where each individual's endurance sustains the group. You stand immobile for weeks, conserving every ounce of energy, waiting with unwavering patience for the moment when life stirs within the egg. At last, after months of hardship, the chick emerges, weak and blind, utterly dependent on your care. Though you have not eaten since the march began, your body produces a small secretion known as crop milk, a temporary nourishment to sustain the chick until the female returns. The reunion is a moment of precision and recognition, for amid the thousands of voices and bodies, you and your mate will find one another by call alone. She returns with food gathered from the sea, relieving your long vigil and allowing you at last to seek sustenance after months of fasting. Together you alternate roles, one venturing to the sea for food, while the other guards the chick against the unrelenting cold. The raising of the chick is a labor that requires constant vigilance. For weeks it remains sheltered within the warmth of the brood pouch, vulnerable to the elements and to predators. Even when it begins to grow downy feathers, it cannot yet survive alone. Slowly, as its strength increases, it joins other young in groups known as creche, where the collective warmth of many chicks provides security while parents forage. The colony becomes a nursery, a place where the survival of the young is bound not only to the dedication of their parents, but to the collective strength of the group. This cycle of life, from courtship to chick rearing, reflects a profound truth about existence in such a harsh environment. Alone, you would not endure. Your body, strong though it is, would falter under the weight of endless cold and hunger. But within the colony, within the shared sacrifices of thousands, survival becomes possible. Life as an emperor penguin is thus not only a story of individual resilience, but of collective strength. A lesson that survival in the harshest of worlds is achieved not by isolation, but by unity. Even as you endure these cycles, the environment upon which you depend is shifting. The ice, once stable and predictable, begins to thin and retreat, melting earlier in the season and forming later than before. The distances you must travel to feed grow longer, the risks to your offspring greater. The rhythms upon which your life depends, rhythms that have guided your species for millennia, face disruption. To live as you do today is to stand at the intersection of past resilience and present uncertainty. Yet still you march. Still you huddle, still you dive, for instinct allows no pause and the drive to continue life presses on regardless of the challenges. And so your life is defined. By sacrifice, by unity, by endurance, and by adaptation. To be an emperor penguin is to inhabit a body that is both vulnerable and resilient, to inhabit an environment that is both hostile and magnificent, to live a life that is both fleeting and eternal in the continuity of generations. Your story is not one of ease, but of triumph against odds. A story that reflects not only the harshness of nature, but the persistence of life itself.